Unisa and Uganda's Makerere University have signed a memorandum of understanding to collaborate on teaching, learning and community engagement. Unisa Principal and Vice-Chancellor Professor Puleng LenkaBula delivered the commencement speech at Makerere University's 75th graduation ceremony, where she affirmed the resilience of African women who sought to define the anti-colonial struggles and post-colonial decolonial struggles, including royalty, political leaders and activists. A range of issues. Professor LenkaBula joins us now. Professor, very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, a significant day to you signed a very important agreement with the Makerere University, a strategic collaboration agreement. Talk to us about the significance of this understanding.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me. I truly am elated, and I hope all epistemic communities of the University are equally excited about the agreement that we have signed with one of the universities that has been at the center of the reimagination of Africa prior to decolonial 10. And I think it's quite exciting that both Unisa and Makerere University have provided quality education and service to different societies and communities in the country, in the continent, and in the world. And Makerere, as you would know, a number of scholars that were quite pivotal anti-apartheid movement, but also to supporting the struggles for freedom against colonialism for many countries. So it's not just the science development, but it's also how science and how university education is optimized to propelling society, to overcoming violations of human rights, to propelling economic transformation, to creating and constructing intellectuals that are of resource to our continent. And then I think this is quite consonant to what Unisa believes in. As the university that takes after South Africa, we have to be constantly attentive to the role that South Africa in the world, but also science diplomacy and advancing science, especially for men and youth and young adults, with the youthful dividend of the continent must be propelled. And I wouldn't, and I'm very appreciative that you're interviewing me as a woman, because for us as African women, we know that it is important that we are at the center of transformation of our society through knowledge, but also through our talents. And I want to wish you all the best, but also the matriculants. They must be inspired by such agreements that we are forging for the benefit of our continent and our societies.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on the matriculants. In fact, just this evening we had a conversation about the imbalance of ratio when it comes to boys, the boys being left behind in the in education, because girls seem to be way ahead of them. And as we expanded on the conversation, we went to great depth about the foundation phase of learning and how this is creating this imbalance. I mean, what are your thoughts around that, where we're seeing this massive gap between the boy child and the girl child?
I want to suggest that there's somewhat contradiction, not a gap. If you look at a continuum, girls or women are still on the margins of science and of education. However, in the recent past, there's a large number of women who are trying to overcome that gap where women were on the margins. But if you look in the STEM subjects, meaning science, technology, art, and associated disciplines, you'll still find that majority of students who are doing well in those areas are still male students. Not so much because their intellectual capacities or their IQ or EQ is higher than of women, but because of the gendered roles that sometimes women and girls play. And I think you're right. we must have a feminist consciousness or a gendered consciousness where we want to balance the plight of boys and girls, as well as being attentive to girls in the rural areas, to girls and boys in the underprivileged environments, especially economic environments, and equally important to students or young people who live with disabilities but who are intellectually capable and are oftentimes glossed over. And I think that's what Unisa is committed to doing, to really pivoting, inclusive, attentive to these contestations and contradiction, but also enabling and empowering people education. For us as Unisa, we are responsible for 33 to 37% of students in higher education. So we are quite committed to aiding and helping all matriculants, no matter which university they want to go to, with advisory about what they would like to pursue for themselves.
As this strategic collaboration agreement occurred, we know that as we look at both universities, what they have in common is a rich history of educating prominent African leaders, playing pivotal roles, freedom and independence. As we look at that, how does this now strengthen the continent's contribution to global knowledge with this collaboration?
One of the areas that we think is quite important for us as the two universities is really to harness the of African knowledge systems, African sciences, indigenous knowledge systems, and project them and center them within the global knowledge arena. We aware that the contribution of Africa in the research outputs is oftentimes considered research. And for us, we want to work together to ensure that the intellectual property rights, systems, projects, and ideation that come out of research from our scientists is projected, is commercialized, but also invested so that there's no dependency by Africa, but we harness this productivity and these research insights or ideas into something that can propel universities. The other aspect is that Makerere University is very strong in health sciences systems. They have a very good and one of the largest medical sciences faculties in East Africa. It's very important in the aftermath of COVID-19 for universities such as Unisa to be attentive to matters of health and well-being, to look into alternative practices that may be undermined but which are quite central to the well-being of humanity, of our plants, our biodiversity, but also of the future in protecting Africans. It's not just health sciences, but if you have healthy communities through science, it means you also have productivity, you also have enabling environments for sustainability, and these aspects are not just theorization, but they find critical application. So through the farm that Unisa has acquired, we are also hoping that the biotic and biogenome project that Unisa is undertaking and the veterinary sciences system that Makerere is doing will find interpretative lenses that can help the continent as it would help all of us.
It does indeed sound like exciting times ahead. I understand your excitement around this project, but thank you so much for speaking to us this evening. We're going to have to leave it there. Professor Puleng LenkaBula speaking to us there about Unisa and the Makerere University signing a strategic collaboration agreement.